I'm Dr. John Taylor, professor and chair of political science at the University of St. Thomas. Teach mainly public administration classes, also teach Texas politics, also teach some off-the-wall classes like American popular culture, also do graduate level courses on Houston and on the American South, and also teach, of course, American Government 1 and 2. Then I was thrown into teaching 2 sections of American government as a doctoral student and loved it at that point. Absolutely loved it. And been doing it ever since. I've actually been a professor now for, good Lord, almost 23 years at this point. Have taught American government every year over those last 23 years. And in some respects, that's the most rewarding because you've got freshmen who might not have a greatly formed sense of the world or a sense of understanding American and Texas politics, but at the same time, people who are more likely to be more optimistic about the world, about our country, and about our government. So it's quite fun, the dialogue and the interactions that take place. That's also the case at the grad level and upper division level, is that students who come from a variety of backgrounds, from the poorest of surroundings here in Houston to wealthy backgrounds, to experience in Afghanistan, Iraq as veterans, to people who come from international backgrounds as well. Wonderful diversity of opinion and thought. And that, it's going to sound kind of crass to say it, I actually quote Mao Zedong to my students on the first day of class. They're like, why are you quoting Chairman Mao? One quote of his, let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 thoughts contend. That's my style of encouraging students to say what they want to say, believe what they want to believe, and we have civil discussion in class. We do it every other year, basically in the election cycles, so that every 2 years we're hitting it just during the fall campaigns, be it for president, be it for governor. And so there's a lot of back and forth discussion about the nuts and bolts of Texas politics. Unlike a lot of states who basically either don't teach about their state government, in Texas we have 2 ways that we do it, both in public and private institutions, and that is you teach a Texas component at the freshman level, basic nuts and bolts stuff. As you get into our class at the upper division level, this was a class that was actually originally designed by our emeritus professor Tom Bass, longtime member of the Texas legislature, county commissioner, the only professor in this university, emeritus or otherwise, who has a park named after him in Harris County. He's the one who actually developed the original course. He actually also wrote one of the first textbooks on Texas politics. And it's that inspiration is how we approach the class, which is to look at Texas politically, culturally, socially. We look at the economic impacts of Texas, not just in the United States, but the world. We talk about, again, the basics of Texas government, governor, the executive branch, legislature, judiciary. We talk about some of the political history. It's rather unique in this state. We talk about some of the problems with Texas politics. Not just, people always say it's about money. It's not just about money. It's also about the antiquated Constitution that we have, which is, some would say, well, 1876 is not that antiquated compared to the U.S. Constitution. But U.S. Constitution has been amended almost 500 times and has grammatical errors and has all sorts of things that have been basically nullified by the U.S. Supreme Court. So we have a lot of good discussions on that. There's a lot of discussions on the rise of the Republican Party since the 1960s and how that has demographically been traced to changes in Texas since really the mid to late 1950s. How air conditioning and the rise of central heating and air conditioning specifically helped to bring about the rise of modern Texas, Houston and Dallas specifically, and how that attracted Yankees, no offense to Yankees, that brought them here, particularly the Dallas and Houston suburbs, that helped to change Texas politics. And there's a great kind of parallel to this because since the 1980s and 90s, the in-migration of Latinos in particular and how that's now changing Texas politics. How we moved from a blue state before 1975, 1980, to now a red state, to now transitioning most likely to a purple state, much more competitive 2-party system. So this is why Texas, in some respects, is on the cutting edge of America and is, I would actually argue, is the face of future America, which is why it's such a great class to talk about. I hope they've actually learned something about our state, our politics. It's much more in depth than what they ever got in American Government 1 and 2. That what we've discussed in class will actually stick with them. That some of the ideas that we've come across, especially the changing demographics of the state, the change in politics in the last 50 years, which, by the way, has still never been written. The true story of how Texas politics has radically changed from horse and buggy, one-party Democratic rule to the rise of the Republicans in the 1970s and 80s to now, again, changing toward a more two-party state. That needs to be written by somebody, and I keep telling particularly the graduate students who take the class, hint, 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 here's a master's thesis for you or a potential doctoral dissertation that's just waiting to be written. So we've had several, including one who worked for successful campaign for United States Senator-elect Ted Cruz. He parlayed that into an internship and then a real-time job. We've had others who've done the same thing. They've actually taken that knowledge from this class and other classes of ours and have gotten jobs. We have students that are all over the place, from teaching in the university level to basically helping to run Houston city government to running for state representative. In fact, we had 2 this last time who actually ran and lost for state rep. We had 3 others who ran for either Harris County School Board or ran for City Council, just in this election cycle alone. So, and that all those people were alums of the Texas politics class over the last 13 years. Well, I start off with music because that's just me, always before class. There are professors who usually, let's just say some of my fellow faculty get a little bit antsy with the amount of music I play, particularly because it tends to be a little bit loud. I tend to personally think of classrooms as my personal stereo system. And it's a mix of music. And it's a way to kind of have a fun time, to kind of, as an icebreaker. Always start off with stuff in the news. So we always bring up discussions about what is being said about Texas politics especially, and Texas government. So there are several websites we always use, try to be as bipartisan as possible. Usually toss out a couple of questions, and from there we just start lecturing. And then usually it's kind of a back and forth discussion. Why be a best kept secret? Why hide your lantern under a bushel, as it were? And that's where I think it's important about UST, is that we're starting to come into our own. People are starting to recognize finally who we are. The ads you see on TV, just athletics, whatever it might be, various programs that are quite visible on campus. I say something about this place that it's different. Is it iconoclastic? I don't know. Is it cutting edge? One might say it's not just cutting edge, it's also timeless as well. It provides moral values, it provides social values that are not found elsewhere, at least in Harris County or in Houston. It is a unique curriculum. There were discussions and debates for years between the faculty and the administration over what constitutes a core, an ideal core. You can quibble about number of hours, but the way we do it, the kinds of classes we offer, the kind of diversity in the intellectual tradition of the campus, of what we offer, I think is important. And that's also where UST is different, because while we have a core curriculum that obviously speaks to the certain things you're supposed to have, science requirements, social science requirements, English, etc., having that moral and philosophical grounding in theology and philosophy says something about the institution. It basically it brands us as a truly Catholic institution. We offer something unique, something that's a niche, and something that has to be cherished and held on to, and something I would argue that we need to expand upon and push harder, push our brand harder, push the university's programs harder, and really sell the University of St. Thomas to our fellow Catholics and non-Catholics alike in the Houston area.